going to go back to Dame Joan Collins, who I think can now hear me. Joan, can you hear me?
I can now.
OK,
yes,
great.
yes,
Listen, I'm sorry it's been such a faffle tonight, but we have you, and you're my treasured guest, as you know, always. So let's start again. I know you've been incredibly moved by what's happened here. Tell me about how you feel about all this.
Well, first of all, I'm sitting there watching the news yesterday with my daughter Katie, and we hear suddenly a message from Buckingham Palace or the palace or wherever that the Queen's not well. And I said, that just does not sound good. So we started watching it, and the more times that we saw the Queen, when she was a little girl, when she was a teenager, when she was 21 and said that really wonderful speech, the more upset we got. And when we finally heard the news at 6:30, I just, I couldn't stop crying. Percy was there by then, and even though you expect it, and obviously we've been thinking about it, you really think she's iconic. She's never going to go. She's always going to be there for us. She's part of my whole life. I mean, I don't remember not being around when she was around.
Yeah, it's exactly how I felt, that she carried with her this aura of invincibility because of the length of the reign, the stoicism, the resilience, the strength. You just never imagined that one day we'd wake up and she'd be gone.
But not only that, I've noticed all the things that people have said about her today, how fantastic she was, how she put up with everything. But nobody has mentioned how glamorous she was, and her incredible dress sense. I mean, I know this is probably shallow, but when you think of all the outfits that she's had to wear, I mean, it must be hundreds of thousands of, tops that match the skirt, that matches the blouse, that matches the coat, that matches the hat with flowers in it. And that's quite extraordinary. Does she have to fit all those things, or is there a mannequin that they put on for her? I mean, because those are... But I've met her, 8 or 9 times, and she's always been so warm, so charming, so interested. When I received my damehood, which was a huge honor, I mean, to be made a dame of the British Empire or whatever it is now, I was just completely knocked out. And she was so sweet, and she, they pin it on, they stick it on, they have to stick it on because she doesn't bother with the pins. And she said, I'm so happy for you, you deserve this. You've been in the business for, no, she didn't say the business, you've been acting for a long, long time now. I said, yes, since I was 16. And she was always a delight to be around. And any time that you went anywhere and you knew she was going to go or be there, you would think, oh my God, I'm going to see the Queen. And it was like, I was a bit like, a teenage groupie with the Queen.
Yeah, but I think everybody was. I think, I remember talking to Donald Trump about when he met the Queen. He went down to Windsor Castle. I interviewed him immediately afterwards, and he was giddy with excitement. Yeah. He really was like a fanboy around her. And he was the President of the United States.
I know. He did. He talked about her all the time in America, how fabulous she was, how kind she was to him. And somebody said, it sounds like Donald's got a crush on the Queen. Yeah, but I don't know anybody, and I have a lot of friends, who can be, not exactly happy with the monarchy, and they can't fault her. There's nothing to fault.
Yes.
I mean, but she's not like a saintly kind of, I'm so good, do good. She's fun. Look at the things she did with Paddington Bear. I mean, that is, what other monarch would do that? And she opens the handbag and takes out a marmalade sandwich and said, I keep mine in here. I mean, how delightful is that? She must have made 100,000 pounds.
But you see, I think, Joan, I think you come from a similar sort of mindset to the Queen. In the sense that I just think there's a certain breed of woman that's just tough, resilient, strong, doesn't play the victim, dust yourself down, get over the inevitable highs and lows of life, treat them with equal equanimity. Yes. I just felt like you're similar people in that regard. I can imagine you getting on very well with her, because I do think that's gone out of fashion a bit now. It's sort of almost been used as the stiff upper lip is now something to abuse people about.
Yes, I agree with you. You know, get up, dust yourself out, and get on with it. Just get on with it. Well, you know, I was a kid during the war. I was there in the Blitz, hiding in the bottom of the various places, you know, hiding on the bunks, hiding in the tube station, and then hiding when I was evacuated. And that's how people were. And when I was in London during the Blitz, I remember being there, and my mother was terrified, but she wouldn't show it. She would, you know, keep herself together. My father, I think, was a little bit more scared, because I think he understood when doodlebugs come over and suddenly there's no sound at all, and then they drop. It's awful. But so what we used to do, me and my pals, we used to go out the next day down Great Portland Street, which is just off Marylebone Road, and pick up the shrapnel.
Yeah.
And I would collect it in a cigar box and laugh about it and say, oh, my bit of shrapnel's bigger than yours. And it was sort of the parents tried to negate the whole danger of it.
And how important, Joan, how important was it? Do you remember what it was like seeing the royal family staying in London? The Queen Mother famously went to the East End and stood in the rubble. Buckingham Palace got bombed numerous times, but they didn't leave the city. Do you remember feeling that that was a sort of influential thing on the country, that the royals stood firm?
I wasn't old enough. I mean, I was still like 7 or 8, but I do remember my mother showing me the front page of the Daily Mail, and there was the Queen, and I think the King, standing in all the rubble outside Buckingham Palace. I think it was Buckingham Palace, I'm not sure, but I remember my mother was a huge monarchy fan, said, oh, look, the Queen is so wonderful. And I said, well, doesn't she have 2 little girls? Because I remember getting cut-out dolls of them. And she said, yes, but they've been taken away. And they were indeed being hidden, as you know, somewhere in the countryside. Nobody knew. And the Queen, sorry.
That's okay. No, hold
it. The Queen
would
not, all right. The Queen would not leave England. She would not leave London.
No.
She absolutely said, she's standing here beside everybody. And I mean, when I look now at what happened then, I wasn't aware of it. I was too young, and I kept on being evacuated about 8 times, and then I'd come back to London because my mother wanted to be with my father. And it is incredible what the British people put up with.
Yes.
With all of those, and the Queen too, of course. I mean, she was driving. But, I mean, when Churchill, he could have the Nazis could have invaded us. You know, it's not. But I think, in a way,
in a way, I think when I hear you talk like that, I remember the Queen. She talked about it, didn't she, in her pandemic speech, when this country was on its knees, people were fearful, they were dying in large numbers, everyone was locked down, and she went on and she referenced World War II, and she referenced that spirit, and she actually invoked the words of Vera Lynn: "We will meet again," and I thought that was so clever of her, as always, because she was reminding people we've been through worse than this. Exactly as you've just been describing.
Oh, God, yes. a lot worse. I don't understand how people don't have that spirit of, you know, just get on with it. You know, you look, my mother had a slogan, and I don't mean this to be in any way offensive, but eat all your food. The children are starving in India. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that I had always. And there was just such a spirit of family life, of wanting to be with your family as much as possible. And of course, I was very young, and my sister was also like 2 or 3 or 4 or something.
What did the Queen...
It was the Queen Mother.
Yeah. Well, I met the Queen Mother a few times. She was an indomitable spirit too, fantastic. And of course, she and the Queen operated with this kind of never complain, never explain, you know, don't be heard often speaking in public, don't give interviews, maintain the mystique of the monarchy. And you see a lot of the younger royals over the years have forgotten that memo, haven't they? And they go jabbering on TV and they say all what they want to say. I don't think it helps with the monarchy in preserving the mystique.
No, I think the monarchy has to preserve the mystique, but they have. About 25 years ago, or 30 years ago, I don't know, when the Queen allowed cameras when she was having that picnic in Balmoral, and we suddenly saw that they were real people. They weren't just icons who looked like they should be in Madame Tussauds. I remember at the end of the war, on the day, what was it, D-Day? Was D-Day the end of the war? Or VE Day,
VE Day.
Victory in Europe Day? I know, my father took us in his car down to Buckingham Palace, and we saw them all on the balcony. And that was when I first got a feeling, I think I was 9 or 10 or something like that, got a feeling that, wow, this is some family. They've stayed here all during the war, and they look so nice with the Queen Mother and her pearls and her feather boa or whatever it was. And the young princess was then, I think, 17, and she'd been driving a truck during the war.
Yeah.
And from then on, I became quite hooked on the royal family. And when Princess Elizabeth, as she was then, became engaged to the most handsome man in the world, who he was then, Prince Philip, I was so excited that I started keeping a scrapbook. And of course, we didn't have social media, so I would get all those magazines like Picture Post and Illustrated and all the and cut out the pictures and all the excitement about her dress. That was the first beginning, I think, of fan mania of the.
And she was. I mean, I think, Joan, I think the Queen was the biggest star in the world.
Yes, I did say that in my text to you. Oh, no, I didn't. I think I put that on Instagram. She was the biggest. Who is bigger than her? I mean, certainly not any of the American, but JFK, I think he was at the time. Jack Kennedy was an icon who I absolutely thought was, you know, absolutely wonderful, and I was terribly upset when he was shot. I remember driving down Park Avenue, sorry, and I had my newborn baby. I'd just been to the doctor's with her, and suddenly the taxi driver says, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And every single car, taxi, bus had pulled over to the sidewalk, and people were standing out, smoking cigarettes and weeping.
Yeah.
And that's when we found out that JFK had died. But I think a lot of people have been crying. I've talked to a lot of my friends. I know you saw Biggins yesterday.
Yeah.
We were. Yeah, I can't help it. It's part of our life. It's like losing your favorite grandma, or, you know.
I think it is. I mean, Boris Johnson. I don't know. Did you see Boris's speech earlier?
I did.
I thought when he explained how emotional he'd been feeling and how he'd had to scrap doing a pre-planned obituary of the Queen because he didn't want to talk about her in the past tense. He welled up. And as he talked about that, I actually really felt like he captured how a lot of us have been feeling. It's been a very a very emotional thing.
Very, very emotional. I had people calling from America, from Los Angeles, friends of mine. But I thought that King Charles, looked very emotional when he was doing his speech. I thought it was excellent.
Yeah.
My darling mama, so sweet. I think he's going to be a good king.
Well, you've met him a number of times, Charles. What do you make of him, Joan?
I think he's great. He has a wonderful voice. Really nice voice. I think he cares very much about the community, about the country, about every country. I mean, he has so many good causes. I thought it was very interesting when he said that he was going to have to give up a lot of his charity work. I don't know who he's going to pass it on to, but of course, I suppose it's very difficult to be a prince and the king.
Do you think he'll be a good king?
When I saw the Queen, oh, I do, yes. I mean, he's been rehearsing enough. And I'm sure that I'm sure that the Queen has given him so many tips about so many things. Look at the way he met everybody outside Buckingham Palace today. Yes. He was shaking hands. He was kissing them. He was being kissed on the hand. He was kissing girls on the cheek. No, not really. I mean, he looked like he was. I think he's going to be exceptional, and I think he has studied it for how long? I mean, for 70 years.
Yeah.
70 years, but he's only 72 or something.
No, I think he's going to be great.
I remember cutting up.
Joan, I've got to leave it there. It's been. I could talk to you all night about this because you just know them all so well. You've had so many great stories. I've got to leave it there, though. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. It's a very sad day.
Thank you.
Well, it's going to be a sad week, and I think the funeral is going to be one of the biggest events of our entire lifetime. I really do. I think it's going to be, the world will descend on London to pay tribute to this remarkable woman.
Everybody loves her. Loved her. Yeah. Great to see you.
Great to see you. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.